you've made a living challenging people's comfort zones, whether that's politics, religion, relationships. But I'm sort of curious, before you were the guy challenging audiences, who was the first person who challenged your comfort zone?
Oh wow! Well, as an entertainer, or just
Yeah,
I,
entertainer.
you know, who's an entertainer who challenged my kind of? I tell you what, George Carlin was someone who made me think. I don't know if he challenged my comfort zone, but he definitely had a bit to do with my atheism and sort of my outlook on life.
Mhm.
Apart from that, like watching Eddie Murphy as a kid swearing on stage made a very big impact on me where I was like, wow, you're actually allowed to do that. You're allowed to swear in front of a room full of people and they'll like you for it. But I'd say, yeah, George Carlin was the one that sort of, I grew up a nice Christian boy, and he made me sort of question things a bit.
I read that you started in music before comedy found you. And I find that a great song can survive if you strip away the production and you play it on a piano. So I love to know what the comedy equivalent of that is, a bit that can still work no matter where you tell it or who hears it.
Well, visual gags, obviously, you can tell them in front of anybody, anywhere. There's certain times you can pull a face or you can give a look, but there's something that's universally funny, no matter where you are, no matter what the language barrier is. If you're in a public bit of transport and you fart loudly, you'll get a laugh anywhere in the world.
Every
So
time.
I hate to be as crass as that, but I believe that might be the only truly universal joke that plays across all languages and all ages.
Yeah.
You can fart in front of a baby who can't speak and
Mhm.
they will giggle.
Yeah.
That's the only joke that goes everywhere.
I totally agree. Every great art form has its own kind of magic. You know, movies can transport you, music can move you, but stand-up comedy, it happens in real time, with real people, and it can completely change the energy of a room in just seconds. So I love to know what's the thing a great comedian can do in a room that a great actor or a great musician simply cannot, the thing that belongs only to this form.
Um, it's an interesting question. I believe we're probably the only people in the art that can, okay, so if you see someone who's a great speaker, they can inspire you, and a great speaker can make you all sit up and listen and be moved. But a comedian is making you involuntarily laugh. Like, of course, you want to laugh, but they'll do a misdirect where you'll just start laughing, and that's a gift, being able to laugh, right? What more can you say about life than we're just trying to get to the next laugh? All we're trying to do each day is just trying to work hard so that we can go and have a laugh with our friends. Do this so we can watch this TV show and have a laugh, right?
Yeah,
If you can make a person laugh, you're basically cheering them up. And who doesn't need to be cheered up?
that's right. I
So
think it's the greatest
I
gift in the
think we
world.
do that more than any other entertainment in the world. Music will move you, but comedy can actually change your emotions in an instant. It won't take a few seconds. It won't build up. It won't swell. It'll be like, I liken it to like if you watch certain sports, that are high scoring, like basketball or AFL. Each time you get a point, you get a little cheer, but then you go to the World Cup and then you see a goal, and that's a completely different thing. And I believe that comedians score goals, man.
Yeah. No, I totally agree
I
with you
might
there.
sound like a wanker now.
No, not at all, mate. Not at all. I think one of the reasons people connect with your comedy is because you seem completely unafraid of being judged. But I think every person who tells the truth for a living has a private fear that they don't talk about. Tell me what yours is. What is Jim Jefferies afraid of?
Well, I'm afraid of the things that everyone's afraid of. I'm afraid of not being a great dad.
Mhm.
I try to be as good a dad as I can be, but I'm afraid of falling short in that. I've also got imposter syndrome. I'm afraid that one day the whole world will decide that I'm not funny, or the internet comments that people say about me are true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that it'll all be over. So I try to minimize that fear, minimize that fear by not making my career everything in my life. If I made it everything, then when it went away, I'd be so devastated. I try to fill my life with other interests, and people around me.
There is a joke that starts as pain and it ends as a punchline. And I'm sort of curious, if you don't mind breaking this down for me, what's the ratio of distance to time? Like, how long does something have to hurt before it becomes material?
So pain plus time equals comedy, right?
Yeah.
There's a weird phenomenon that goes on with disasters and stuff like that, where if you instantly say something funny, it can break the tension. I'm talking even if you've had a death in the family or something like that. If you joke about it right away, it's sort of that 3-day mark where you're not meant to say anything, and then all of a sudden it gets funnier again later on. Look, you have to be able to find the humour in things. I think. I don't think there's any time. I think as soon as possible you should start joking about things. I don't think you need to wait forever. The real question is when can you start being insensitive about it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that every joke is insensitive.
Talk to me about the first time someone famous told you that you were good, because I think there is a moment in every career where external validation arrives from somewhere unexpected and either confirms everything or it confuses it completely. What was yours?
Oh, geez, golly. I had some famous comedians who were people who were already up and running. When I was studying at Whopper in Western Australia doing musical theatre, and Gary who hosted a TV show in the '80s called Just for the Record, and he also hosted he was on the TV show All Together Now. He came out and he was a professional full-time comedian, and he saw me do my open mic set and he said, "Oh, do you want to come and open for me on the road?" And I quit university that day because that was all I needed. This guy does it for a living. He thinks I'm good enough, But then over the years, there's been movie stars and stuff that have reached out to me that are like, "Hey, I really enjoy that special." It still blows you away every time.
Wow.
And then at the end of the day, they're just bloody actors. They're not better than me or anybody else in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
But I get a kick out of athletes who like me for some reason. I fanboy over athletes because they're doing so. Whenever I watch an actor, I always think to myself, if I was better looking, I could do that. I believe I can act. I think I can do their job. Whenever I look at a musician, I think, possibly if I just practice harder, maybe along the way I could do that. But being a professional athlete, I know I could have never done that. I'm just not coordinated enough. So I'm more in awe of those people. So I find it really weird when I still get Star Trek when athletes come and see my show. There was a musician, Eddie Vedder, once came to see me perform, and that blew my mind. I was like, wow, Pearl Jam's here. You don't get cooler than Pearl Jam, right? I still get starstruck when other people know who I am or actually pay money to come and see me.
Yeah, it must be a surreal feeling. Talk to me about what great comedy actually requires of the person doing it. Not so much the skill, the technique, the human requirement. Like, what do you have to be willing to give up to do this at the level you do it?
It's a very tough job in the early days. So actors will always say to you, "Oh, you have to be able to be putting up with rejection. You have to be rejected all the time." And it's like, that's every night for a comedian. A certain percentage of the audience is always going to reject you, even at this stage. They're going to be brought along by a friend and think that person's not funny. The secret is to get, 90% of the audience to love you, and then the other 10% can piss off,
Yeah.
But what do you actually need? Okay, you need to be able to travel. You need to be able to sleep in some pretty dodgy old hotels. You need to be able to work in some clubs when you first start out where the security isn't there and it's just you and the audience. It's a really tough business. But if you can do that, if you're hardworking and you're single-minded, I believe good comics can become great comics. I don't think bad comics can ever become anything but bad comics. I think you're either born funny or you're not. But if you really work at it and you're good, you can become great through effort and time.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly not for everyone, though. That's for sure.
No, there's plenty of people who they give it a go. There's a difference between being funny with your mates and being funny at 8 p.m. on Friday on the dot. You have to do it right then. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people who get into it because they've done a best man speech that maybe went well. and they think, oh, I'll give it a go. You'll see people all the time, like Jim Carrey does this. Jim Carrey will do a university speech and tell people to never give up. I'm not a believer in that. I believe that some people should give up. I think give something a few years. If it doesn't work out, move on to the next thing. There's no shame in it.
See, Jim Jefferies should be a mentor.
These inspirational speeches where people can. This is the whole thing. Jim Carrey going, never give up. Jim Carrey is a generational talent.
Yeah.
He was on Canada. They were interviewing him when he was 14, 15 years old as this rubber-faced kid who everyone was laughing at. And he goes, my dad could have become a comedian, but he realized that he could get fired from a job that he didn't want to do. So why didn't he do the job that he wanted to do? Well, because the other job paid and all this type of stuff, right? The entertainment business, there is a certain lottery shot at it. I've got a lot of friends that I started out in comedy with who are now not doing stand-up anymore. And I always say to them, I said, you did it from 20 to 45.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's pretty good. From 20 to 45, you worked as a professional comedian. That's how you paid your bills, and you did it every day. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be something newer, younger, faster coming along.
Yep.
But it's, you know, look, it's not a job for the weak, I tell you. It's not a job for the weak.
I want to talk to you about the physical experience of stand-up, because an hour on stage, I think, is a genuinely athletic thing. I think people forget that, because when you're on tour, you know, night after night, it must get tiring. But I'd love to know, what does your body feel like at the end of a great show versus a difficult one?
Well, normally my shows go on between an hour and a half to sort of 2 hour 15. And on the Australian tour, I'll be doing 2 shows a night. I think everyone thinks that's really hard. Man, I worked as a waiter. I've worked as a bartender. I worked selling mobile phones for Stratfield car radios. And they made me stand on my feet for 8 hours. And that was a tougher job. Even when I'm doing my 2 hours on stage, if you notice, I'll have a chair on stage that I'll sit in for a bit, or I'll sit on the edge of the stage. You know, at the end of each show, as long as it goes good, I feel wonderful. I only get paid to get on planes and to get into hotels. I would do stand up for free, without a shadow of a doubt. It's the highlight of my day. It's the thing I look forward to all day, is doing this little job. You know, so. Yeah. So the reason I get off stage is because I don't want to start boring people or waffling too long, but I could stay up there for 4 hours. I'd love it. It would keep me happy. Yeah. So I won't have you say that it's a hard job and mentally tiring and all that type of stuff. Once you get good at it, it's a really easy job because it's a fun job.
You're bringing your tour, Son of a Carpenter, to Australia. I was thinking about the title before. It made me think about the things our parents give us without realizing it, whether that's habits, fears, humor. And I sort of want to know from you, what's something your father gave you that you didn't appreciate until later on in life?
He gave me a work ethic that I really didn't appreciate when I was a child. He made me get a job at 11 doing a paper round, and by the time I was 14, I was working at McDonald's, and by the time I was 16, I was working in a butcher's, you know, and my father was a carpenter, and he was an apprentice at age 14, and he was basically illiterate. And so for him, work was more important than school. My parents never really cared too much about my grades. And I never got my assignments in on time, and I never finished my projects on time because my parents had me working 20, 25 hours a week on top of my school job.
All right.
You know, so at the time I thought, why all the other kids, they get to go out and have fun and they get to, you know, hang out with each other and just socialize, and I'm always putting on a McDonald's outfit. And that work ethic has really helped me throughout my life. And at the time, I was quite resentful towards it. Now I think, oh, I'm glad I got that. But my father has the sense of humour. That's how I got the sense of humour. My mother had the stage presence. And so my mother was a school teacher. She was one of those school teachers that walked in the room. And when she walked in the room, everyone just was quiet. She didn't have to say anything. She'd just go sit at the table and just wait for a second, and all the students would be scared and they'd stop talking. And then she'd start, because I know that she was a school teacher at my school, you know, which I didn't appreciate that. My father, extremely funny man that no one wanted to listen to. So I got I got the funny from him and the stage presence from her, and
Yeah.
thank God it didn't go the other way because I could have been a boring person that no one ever listened to.
Oh, it all paid off at the end of the day, Jim. I want to quickly cut you
Well,
off this of this. We love the 1% Club Australia. As much as it is frustrating for me because I can only get past the 70% question, but I do feel a lot better because
yeah,
once the 70% question, the answers come up, there'll be at least 11 or 12 people out. I find it's a collective failure. So I feel much better about myself. You're usually the
good.
person challenging the audience, but on the show, you're watching ordinary people challenge themselves. So I'm sort of curious, has being on the other side changed the way you look at an audience?
I like nothing more than when someone actually wins the 1% club. That's one of my favorite things in the world is saying you've just won $100,000. He's like fantastic. So, and when you say you get knocked out at the 70%, I get knocked out now at about the 50%. Sometimes I get up to the 25% question
Okay,
if
that's
I'm
not
having
bad.
a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've played the game so much. I'm always playing along with the contestants in my head. Now, there's something that does happen on that show, which people get very angry with me. People write to me all the time, why are you talking over the 30 seconds? I'm trying to F and bloody answer this question and you won't shut up. Those lines are actually recorded afterwards. If you actually come into the show and you play the game, I'm quiet during the 30 seconds so they can actually answer the question. And
Really?
that's for two reasons. It's for them to focus, and it's also that they'll laugh at my stupid jokes afterwards. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because otherwise, why would they be laughing if they're doing the actual quiz themselves?
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question. I just got so sidetracked
No,
then.
that's
I'm starting
okay.
to talk
No,
about 1% Club.
I've learnt something new about the 1% Club. It's great. Jim, this has truly been an absolute honor to chat with you. I've been watching your stand up for a very long time now, probably when I was way too young to watch your material, but I've absolutely adored you and I can't wait to see this new show. Thank you again so much for your time.
See, come backstage, mate, and say hello.